I'm going to go quickly through the text of this Mishnah and leave the more detailed discussions for later. It starts, Me'ematai chayav, mi sheyochal tartimar basar, v'yishteh chati lo yain italki. The first thing to see here is that the standard Mishnah form, there's a question, there is an anonymous answer, and then a named Tana comes and doesn't say a full sentence, but only tells us what he disagrees about. Right? So they disagree about the amount of meat and wine. The second thing to notice, the beginning is identical to the first Mishnah, but with a different meaning. There it was me'ematai, chronological, when, at what age. Here, me'ematai, from what point in terms of the child's actions. What does the child do to qualify? The answer, again, from when the child eats a certain amount of meat, drinks a certain amount of wine. Rabbi Yossi's amounts are simply twice those of the Tanakama. We're not going to get into the meanings of the specific amounts. They're clearly not so much, but how drunk would that make someone? It's really hard to pin down, and not our main concern. Our main concern is that they are debating only about the amounts, but they assume and agree on the fact that basar and yain are themselves requirements. Okay. Now we have our ifs. We have first a series of ifs. Remember that the past tense verb in the Mishnah usually is a case, right? You put an if. If this happened, here's the rule. In this case, it's a negative rule. If he did this, or this, then he's not going to be a ben tzur mereh. Right? So chavorat mitzvah, right? And ibur chodesh is where they would gather to sort of set the calendar whether it needed to be a leap year or not. Maaser sheni b'Yerushalayim is the eating of the maaser sheni in Yerushalayim is itself an act of mitzvah. So those are mitzvot. And then nevelot, trefot, shkatim, ramasim. Hopefully you saw the sort of specific original meaning of each term, but altogether they represent non-kosher foods. So we have acts of eating that are mitzvot and acts of eating that are averot. And then we have the general category. Achal davar she mitzvah, anything which is a mitzvah, or if he ate anything that was an averah. Obviously, we know it's going to be Eino nasa ben tzur mereh, but we don't quite get there yet because we have one more. Achal kol ma'achal v'lo achal basar, shata chol mashke v'lo shata yain. If what he ate and drank was not meat and wine. Eino nasa ben tzur mereh. Here it is. Here's the then. He does not become ben tzur mereh. It does not count. Ad sheyochal basar v'yishteh yain. He's got to eat meat and drink wine. Shena emar Zolel v'soveh. So, if you just look at this slide, you kind of see what the whole Mishnah, where the whole Mishnah is coming from. Zolel v'soveh is the one specific behavior pattern that is mentioned in the Psukim. This Mishnah is taking that as a prerequisite. That is something that is the one thing that I know for sure the ben tzur mereh has done. So, to be a ben tzur mereh, you have to have eaten and drunk. What I'm adding then is that has to be specifically eating meat and drinking wine. Where do I get that idea from? That it's specifically meat and wine? Well, because I don't have a proof, but I have an illusion, because the pasuk in Mishlei, Al tihi besov'ei yain b'zolei basar. Don't be among the drunkards on wine, gluttons on meat. It may not be a proof for the meaning of the terms in our context, but it is the only other place in Tanakh where those two words appear together, Zolel v'Soveh. And as such, just like it was natural for the rabbis to take the only specific behaviors mentioned in the Psukim and presume that those to be requirements to become a Ben Sora Moreh, so too it is natural in trying to understand, to further define Zolel v'Soveh, to turn to the only other place in Tanakh where those two words appear together. And they specify Yain and Basar. All that's left now to determine, once we've decided that Zolel v'Soveh is a requirement, it's got to be eating and drinking. More specifically, it has to be eating meat and drinking wine, is to now determine how much meat and wine. And that is what brings us back to the very beginning of the Mishnah. Right? This last section is what the machloket at the beginning of the Mishnah presumed, and kind of was the starting point for that machloket. Now, I want to just point out that this slide reads very coherently. It's not meat or wine. It doesn't count. It has to be meat and wine, because Zolel v'Soveh, combined with the pasuk from Mishlei that Soveh is Yain and Zolel is Basar, and then the beginning of the Mishnah, which debates the amounts. What is strange is this stuff. What's it doing there? And the mitzvot are fairly easy to rationalize. The averot are more head-scratching, but I don't actually have any sense of where, midrashically, either of these comes from. Why would mitzvah and avera be relevant at all? And the other thing to notice is that not only is it strange and it seems out of place, because all the other three sections of the Mishnah all fit together perfectly and perfectly logically, but notice if I went straight from here, from Rabbi Yossi Omer Maneh v'Asar v'lo yain, to here, I would have a perfectly coherent Mishnah. Meaning, this whole section could get taken out and the Mishnah would still make sense. Which suggests that this idea of mitzvah and avera is a later addition to the Mishnah, which is the part that does not come directly from the psukim, which is why we find it harder to kind of articulate or figure out what either of these categories has to do with the main point, which is, of course, that Zolel v'Soveh, meaning basar and yain, are the defining central requirement for becoming Ben Sora Moreh.